Welcome back, and joining us for a look at the equity scene is Lonwabo Maqubela from Perpetua. Thank you so much for your time, Lonwabo. Just a quick one from your side on what is keeping the markets under pressure. We do have the JSE extending the losses that we saw yesterday, and also those US markets coming back to a rather sour sentiment today.
Yeah, it is. It has been quite a volatile, market, particularly based on the outlook for interest rates. People want to, they want confirmation that inflation has peaked, and certainly what seems to be happening is that it seems to be stickier than initially assessed. I think generally what tends to happen with inflation is that obviously the first year after your base effects, which was last year, which is why it had such a big decline. So now, the true inflation rate is slowly being revealed, and expectations have been pared back somewhat. And then I'd say the last factor is that markets, particularly at the end of last year, got very excited about the prospect for rate cuts and probably outran the pace that the Fed had meant. Some moderation coming to the market as a result of that.
Moderation that we did see was in the share price of particularly the resources stocks. Let's take a look at BHP. That came out with interim results today. Revenue up 6%, but not translating through to the bottom line, with headline earnings declining by 48%. It seemed that those numbers did beat expectations, but the share price, of course, took a 3% knock. What tone did you get from those numbers?
Yeah, it's all, BHP has always, I thought it was a very commendable set of results. So flat earnings. And really what you saw was iron ore and copper making up for weak coal. So, the copper division grew profits 23%, iron ore grew profits 27%. For the half year, BHP earned $1.30, which is roughly flat, as you mentioned, on the comparative, and as well as a decent dividend. They did take an impairment charge for the nickel operation, so $2.5 billion. And then also you'll remember a few years ago, they had an accident in Brazil. So they took a $3.5 billion provision for that as well. So that actually takes in total about $7 billion now that BHP has provided for providing assistance to the community as a consequence of that dam failure. What's fair to say for BHP is that iron ore has become, much more important over the years. So they demerged the petroleum business. They sold some coal assets. So iron ore now accounts for 70% of BHP's EBITDA. And I think if you were to look at, cash flows, it would even be significantly more than that. So the iron ore price was down today, on just continued weakness in China. And so that has had a consequent impact. They did also guide to CapEx being higher than where it's been over the last few years. So we probably had a run rate of around $6 billion. So they're guiding to about getting up to $10 billion for the next couple of years. So as a consequence, that free cash to shareholders will be lower than where it's been.
Well, interesting that you say that the iron ore price was down today, because of course that also filtered through to Kumba Iron Ore, even though they seem to have quite positive financial metrics. Your sentiment on Kumba?
Yeah, Kumba. Kumba's, very similar. So obviously they had the benefit of the high iron ore price for the year. So iron ore was actually up for the year, some 20-odd%, and then that drove Kumba's profits as well. So earning 70 rands a share. So very, a decent earnings number. For Kumba, it is definitely a case of counting your lost billions, in the sense that they, with Transnet only able to transport roughly 36 million tons versus nameplate capacity, which is 42, 43. If you do the maths, it works out to like 4 or 5 billion rand.
Sure.
That's the impact that's had on Kumba. And I guess the important question going forward is, is this the new low, or will things deteriorate further? You know, when one has looked at the coal line, it was a long-term trend of a declining capacity. You know, so one wonders whether this is the bottom. You know, so it's not surprising, unfortunately, that now Kumba's had to announce this, you know, retrenchment in order to, I guess, to right-size themselves going forward.
Lonwabo, just a quick one. We are running out of time, but just a quick one before we get to your stock pick. Supergroup releasing an interim trading statement there, headline earnings dropping 16.2%. They say that it was a resilient performance, but seeming, I don't know, were markets just not seeing the resilience, or were they just taken aback by these significant challenges that Supergroup experienced?
Yeah, so Supergroup 10% decline in the share price today. And actually, when you look at the operating profit, it was up some 5%. And so it was actually the net interest line that was higher than expected, particularly out of, they mentioned the UK and Germany, you know, so, and because of high interest rates, that then meant the debt that they have attracted more, you know, a bigger interest expense, and that's actually the reason for the decline in earnings. They also own a subsidiary that's listed in Australia called SG Fleet. They also reported today, and actually a very decent set of numbers. So it really does boil down to the interest cost coming out of the UK.
All right. Well, let's get to your stock pick for today. What will it be?
Yeah, so I chose Anglo Gold, and possibly more as a way of comparison. Anglo Gold and Gold Fields are very similar in many respects, you know, including kind of the size of their production. And actually, as things stand today, Gold Fields market cap is more than 100 billion rands higher than Anglo Gold. Now, we don't think that this is actually, you know, supported by big differences between the businesses, including costs, future production. You know, so we think that things for Anglo Gold, there's enough that they're working on to improve the operations that will actually result in them unlocking some of that value that's not being reflected by the market today.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights on what has been driving investors' money today, Lonwabo. That was Lonwabo Maqubela from Perpetua.